This meeting is being recorded.
So good morning, Rajesh Yadav. Hope you're doing well.
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well too. And really thank you for accepting our invitation to be a part of our Next Gen Entrepreneurs Beyond Dream series. And to give a brief about Mr. Rajesh Yadav, he's the founder and CEO of Aerobiosys, and it's founded in 2019. And they are an IIT Hyderabad Center for Health Entrepreneurship based startup. And they have developed a low-cost portable emergency use ventilator, and their proprietary product is called Jeevan Lite. It offers protection to the patients and as well as the healthcare providers, as it's an IoT-enabled device, and it can be operated through a mobile application. And also to say about other products they offer, they also provide DuoVent, an intelligent double lung ventilation system, and also J Fit, a smart SpO2 tracker. And coming to the awards and recognitions, they are the top innovators award. They bagged the top innovators award at the Innovation Arena in PHIC 2021. And also the startup is well recognized, I would say, because even our Honourable Vice President of India, Venkaiah Naidu has tweeted mentioning their product, and also recently Dr. Tamilisai Soundararajan, Governor of Telangana and Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry, has launched their product Jeevan Lite and also handed it over to the Chief Minister of Puducherry. And we are really happy to have you with us today, Rajesh, and we'd like to hear more from you, like about yourself and how you started this entrepreneurship journey and more. Please.
Sure. Thank you so much for the introduction. So, to give a brief background about myself, myself Rajesh Yadav. The name itself is unique. You have both a touch of South India and North India.
Yes.
So basically, we are followers of Krishna. That's where the Yadav name is there. And so I was born in a very small town in Ramanathapuram. And from there, I was born over there, but I brought up in Mumbai.
Okay.
So I did my schooling, college, and my PG in Mumbai itself. So I did my master's from IIT Bombay. And right after that, during my like UG time, I used to make small, even from my school time, I used to make some small innovations for the science exhibitions, which was a very happy moment for me to make something and exhibiting your innovation to someone. So that started from my 8th grade itself. So then, so I was looking for a different perspective, whether I can, then I had my personal incidents where my dad met with a heart attack. And then that's when I understood the healthcare market is not something a middle class person can handle it. So we were because he had a blockage, and then we had to find a proper stent for him. At that time, stent price were really high. Now it has been reduced too much to around 30,000 per stent. But that time, that is in 2012 itself. So it was really difficult, and I understood the problem from the class road, because I used to spend around a month in the hospital sleeping there, and I saw what all the other problems we are observing. That's why healthcare was very close to me. When I got to know about IIT Hyderabad Center for Healthcare Entrepreneurship program, I just applied to it. I thought, okay, let me get through. They were like a very their curriculum is very cool. Okay. So you go there. They had 10 different individuals, all the 10 from different backgrounds, from chemical engineer, mechanical engineer, for an MBA graduate, who has 22 lakh per month salary, who want to start a startup in health. So such examples are also there. So all 10 of us are in different background. And we were following a curriculum from Stanford, which is basically biodesign curriculum, where we were thrown into an hospital setup. And then we would spend day in and day out with the doctors to identify what is the problem we are trying to face. And that problem itself, we try to make a solution to it. So we have identified some problems, which each one of them can be translated to a different product, a viable product. Okay. So with that idea, we went in. We saw a 4-year-old child who was rushed into a hospital, and there was too much chaotic. Me and my co-founder Cyril Anthony. And that's when we saw that the child was. So we looked at the case sheet. It just said that the child has one lung pneumonia. That is, the left lung is infected than the right lung. And then we looked at the condition of the child. We followed the child from the emergency care to an intensive care unit. We saw the child was connected to a ventilator, which was for adult. they did some kind of
Okay.
jugaad that it can be
Okay.
because for
Okay.
adult lungs capacity is smaller as
Yes.
compared to ours.
Uh-huh.
So there is a variation in the volume, the tidal volume, and also the flow rate which we
Yes.
need to give. But the doctor
Mm-hmm.
didn't have any pediatric ventilator, so they
Alternative or
connected that.
mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
So we have connected a adult ventilator, but then doing some jugaad
Yes.
by
I
controlling
know
the minimum
the
possible.
pressures, etc., decreasing the pressure and uh-huh. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So then we saw that the child, one lung which was infected completely, after 2 days, both lungs were infected.
Oh
And
my
the
God.
child was discharged
Okay.
against advice from the doctor. The reason was the price of ventilation and the ICU care setup
Mm-hmm.
was very expensive for a low
Mm-hmm.
class, middle class person. So we are the doctors suggested that child might not survive. That's a
Mm-hmm.
high possibility because SpO2 was very, very low, close to 60,
Mm-hmm.
70.
Mm-hmm.
So the parents then they couldn't afford for it, so they went to a government setup. So even in
Okay.
government setup, we have visited both government and tertiary care private
Mm-hmm.
setup. So even in government setup, it is not that cheap. It's 5,000 rupees per person per day at
Mm-hmm.
least. That's the cheapest which we have seen so far.
Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
then we saw this problem of ventilator is it's a very big problem because that's a life saving
Mm-hmm.
device if someone comes up to kind of heart related issue or you
Yes.
have a respiratory related issue. Like ventilator is a huge problem. Then we looked at
Mm-hmm.
what is statistic of ventilator right now. Yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
was pretty low. That is back in 2018 itself.
Okay.
2018,
Okay.
2019, without the lack of ventilator. We
Mm-hmm.
started working on this different ventilation system where if one lung
Mm-hmm.
is infected, the other lung can be controlled. That's where we
Mm-hmm.
came up with this idea of DOVET, pulse
Okay.
sequential lung ventilation, for which
Mm-hmm.
we got
Mm-hmm.
the patent.
Mm-hmm.
We started working we got one grant from BIG to work on
Mm-hmm.
this product,
Mm-hmm.
and this is in Jan 2020.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's 2 months down the line.
That was
COVID came.
very yeah, like coincidence, or I'll not say, like, I don't know, but it really was coinciding with the COVID onset, right? The pandemic
Exactly,
itself.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were not expecting the pandemic as such, but yeah, by
Yeah.
December we knew we on
Mm-hmm.
Twitter, on social media,
Mm-hmm.
we know that okay, there is something a pandemic kind of situation going to
Yeah.
come,
Mm-hmm.
but we were not sure it's going to be this much lockdown and everything we would go through.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So it was so our idea was to make a low cost ventilator which can
Mm-hmm.
handle the such
Okay.
like
Okay.
conditions like pandemic and also.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
then the like around March 18th, that's when we started working on the Jeevan Lite product. So
Mm-hmm.
when everyone everywhere it's a lockdown which has been
Yeah.
announced, and then we were locked inside a small
Mm-hmm.
house which have an office kind of a setup
Mm-hmm.
where we recruited our friends itself. So we were
Mm-hmm.
a very small team because initially it was me and my co-founder itself. Then we
Okay.
expanded our team to around 15 members,
Mm-hmm.
where we started getting inputs. We did our R&D inside in that room itself. We were locked. We cannot
Okay.
go out.
Yes.
We,
Mm-hmm.
and none of us we were sleeping inside. So that's how we started with the whole idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
slowly we started working on the prototype. Working prototype was made. We displayed that
Okay.
prototype. Then industrial partner JCB India Private Limited showed interest on our project.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to Pune, got all the approvals in between the lockdown when everyone was not allowed to travel. We were allowed to go to Pune, and then
Okay.
in their manufacturing setup, we got few
Mm-hmm.
inputs on what all modifications we can do. And
Mm-hmm.
then we again went back to our same setup in Pondicherry, where we
Mm-hmm.
started building our own ventilator. So where we
Okay.
designed everything from scratch. So we
Mm-hmm.
had around 5 to 6 iterations of the design, where
Mm-hmm.
we wanted to make it as compact as possible, as
Mm-hmm.
portable as possible, and also it
Mm-hmm.
should have all the features which is required in a
Mm-hmm.
rural setup. That's our whole goal.
Yes.
Because
Mm-hmm.
COVID might go after some time, but then our idea is to like fill this gap between a tier one city and a rural setup. You
Okay.
cannot go
Okay.
take an ICU care because I come from a very small village in Tamil
Mm-hmm.
Nadu. There,
Mm-hmm.
if you need to get an ICU setup, you need to travel 40 kilometers to go to a
Yes.
city
To city
and
and
then
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, in that time point, it's around 2 hours travel from me. Even if you're going in
Yes.
ambulance with a very high speed, it will gonna take 2 hours. In that 2 hours, if the
Yeah.
person is not able to survive, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So to
Yes.
avoid this,
Yes.
we thought, can we bring this like ICU care setup in a small town? For that, we
Mm-hmm.
need IoT. A doctor
Okay.
can be sitting in the city itself, can control
Mm-hmm.
the whole system. Just
Mm-hmm.
need
Mm-hmm.
someone as a life support person. That's it. We just need to
Okay.
give the minimum training. We'll be able to operate it,
Mm-hmm.
and the
Mm-hmm.
cost is also very low. If you look at the other ventilators which are there in the market, they would
Mm-hmm.
cost somewhere around 10 to 15 lakhs. Ours
Mm-hmm.
is just 4 lakhs. So
Okay.
we also
Okay.
have there's all the standards, ISO standards and IEC
Mhm.
standards, which are European standards. With
Mhm.
that, we built the whole ventilator. We have got the
Mhm.
standards clearance for that. And now
Mhm.
we are going on for CE certification. So this is for
Okay.
expanding our to
Mhm.
apart from India. We want to deploy
Okay.
these units.
Mhm.
Certifications. That's a whole goal.
Yeah.
In between, the J Fit came in. That is
Mhm.
when we were working in Pondicherry, Jipmer Hospital.
Mhm.
So they said, can we make a vital monitor which can be connected to the
Okay.
patient, and we can see. So that's when we worked on that. And
Mhm.
this an idea that came from the clinicians directly. So that's why we were
Okay.
working on that.
Mhm.
But Deovent and JP are still in a prototype stage, but Jeevan Lite
Mhm.
is already a commercial product which is already in the market.
Okay,
That's all. That's a
that's
small list
actually
of
a
our journey.
very interesting and aspiring journey, I would say, because starting with a very clear problem statement, and then going mentioning into the product, and it's very interesting. And also we can see that how the central government institutions like IITs are helping innovators in this regard, and are really fortunate that startup culture is blooming, and also they're getting much needed support from other authorities. And also like I could understand, you had the initial challenges during the pandemic, you clearly mentioned it, but coming to other challenges when to initiate the product development itself or the journey of entrepreneurship, what other challenges you had? Was it forming the right team, finding the right co-founder, the initial funding, or from the conventional setup to changing, shifting from the conventional employee setup to entrepreneur? So what was the challenge for you, if you could just give us some glimpses of it? Mm-hmm.
Sure. So the challenges are there. So for me, I took 2 days to convince the faculties of IIT that I'm an entrepreneur, and and I
Okay.
wish to be an entrepreneur. It
Uh-huh.
took 2 months for me to convince my parents that I want to get into leaving a monthly
Mm-hmm.
paid job and secured job and going into entrepreneurship. But
Mm-hmm.
luckily, my parents were okay with this idea.
Mm-hmm.
They said, okay, do whatever you want. But then
Mm-hmm.
they trusted that, okay, I can do something better in this field also. So
Mm-hmm.
then the major challenge, so finding a co-founder was never an issue. So this
Mm-hmm.
bi-design program,
Okay.
so I met my co-founder in the
Mm-hmm.
first day. So during the interview round itself, I
Okay.
met him. So
Uh-huh.
I know him like back in 2018 itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I've spent, so it's like an hostel life. One year he was just next adjacent to my room,
Mm-hmm.
and then we talk on our idea about all different things we can work. So
Okay.
that 1 year fellowship program really helped us to find the
Mm-hmm.
right team, the initial
Okay.
founding team.
Mm-hmm.
Post that, finding employment was a major issue. So
Mm-hmm.
because currently the trend is different. So if you talk
Yes.
about parents time, they're very loyal to the company where they're joining in.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
now we have multiple other options. So
Mm-hmm.
if you ask one software developer, if he
Mm-hmm.
comes to Bangalore, for him it's like one of the
Yeah.
company. There are like 10
Yes.
companies for you to give them a job
Mm-hmm.
if he is ideal. So to
Mm-hmm.
retraining, I mean, retaining that particular employee who is
Mm-hmm.
working really hard is something very, very crucial.
Mm-hmm.
And to achieve that, we have made an agenda where there's no 9 to 5 job. You can
Mm-hmm.
come, there's a task assigned to you. You finish it, this
Okay.
is the time. That's it. So
Okay.
that's like
Okay.
more flexibility we're trying to provide over here.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
also it's about the incentives which you're trying to provide. So those things are
Mm-hmm.
appraisals. Those things are very important when you're trying to retain an employee. But
Yes.
the initial
Mm-hmm.
set of funding was a really tough part, because
Mm-hmm.
getting the right was okay because all of
Mm-hmm.
them were working. But then getting the initial set of funding, we were
Mm-hmm.
lucky enough to some extent that
Mm-hmm.
BIDAC and other different organizations like Department of Science and Technology,
Mm-hmm.
USAID, JCB India Private Limited, they were
Mm-hmm.
generous enough to provide the funding. So I
Mm-hmm.
would say for all the entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, if you find the right idea and the problem,
Mm-hmm.
funding
Mm-hmm.
won't be an issue. So I've seen this.
Okay.
This is my personal experience. If you have
Mm-hmm.
identified the right problem and giving a right solution to it, funding won't be any issue, because
Mm-hmm.
government is ready to support you at this time point. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not just on the healthcare business. There are other different like genre also which you want
Mm-hmm.
to get in. So for example, waste health, accessibility for specific for healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
or you're getting into sustainable development goals. So there are multiple
Mm-hmm.
different fields where you
Yes.
can get in.
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
government is ready to support you.
Mm-hmm.
But the major challenge was from the time the fellowship ended. So during the fellowship,
Mm-hmm.
we were getting paid a stipend of around
Okay.
60. But
Mm-hmm.
after that, there was a time like around 4 to 6 months, no pay,
Mm-hmm.
nothing, and we
Mm-hmm.
have to handle everything on our own. There was some rough patch in our area. But then we also had some clarity. So we have to
Mm-hmm.
plan. Being an entrepreneur, we need some management skills
Yes.
over there.
Mm-hmm.
We started planning like, okay, we'll participate some competitions.
Mm-hmm.
We'll win some of them. We visited around 5 to 6 competitions. We won
Mm-hmm.
one or two of them with the
Mm-hmm.
ratio of around 20-30% success rate. And with that also, we were able to get some money as a prize awards because
Okay.
we had a prototype in hand. We started
Mm-hmm.
pitching it
Mm-hmm.
to IIM Calcutta Tata Social Enterprise Challenge,
Mm-hmm.
Infosys Awards. We went to
Okay.
different other yeah, and also we explored. That's when we also got the connect also. So where
Mm-hmm.
we were
Mm-hmm.
going to and presenting different places, we met
Mm-hmm.
Sudhamuti ma'am during our Infosys
Okay.
award. Where we
Mm-hmm.
presented our innovation. So
Mm-hmm.
there were multiple different expertise who started giving inputs.
Mm-hmm.
That's also very important. So we
Yes.
started
Yes.
collecting each
Mm-hmm.
input and then slowly we built it. So our journey was not like
Mm-hmm.
in a rocket scale, but we
Yeah.
slowly took inputs and also we were working on what the inputs
Mm-hmm.
were.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. It's like it's a very structured as you enter the structured program, and also we got the co-founder from day one, and it's very interesting. And other challenges, as you know, like it's a part and parcel of an entrepreneur's journey, like the funding, everything, and also having the right things in place also matters a lot to have the product in the market. And thank you for sharing your experience. And coming to the value proposition, you mentioned it clearly, like you wanted to, penetrate into the rural market, a rural healthcare system, and that comes with all the three products which you have in the pipeline right now. And in future, what you're planning, like you would be still in working in the healthcare itself, or you'll be venturing into other industries. How you would look your startup moving in the path in the future?
Our idea is to get into the complete sector in healthcare itself. That's our
Okay.
expertise. So we
Mm-hmm.
don't want to get diverse right now. So our
Mm-hmm.
idea is to increase the portfolio of products. So basically,
Okay.
intensive care is something which is an area not
Yes.
everyone can get in. So
Yes.
there is
True.
an entry penetration option also
Mm-hmm.
because one that would require a huge amount of regulatory clearance,
Yes.
which other
Yes.
startups. That's the reason why you don't see good amount of startups coming in case of India
Mm-hmm.
itself, or,
True.
no,
True.
or anywhere else, because that
Mm-hmm.
has a huge amount. So we have spent enough amount to get
Mm-hmm.
this thing. We know the journey. Okay, if we come up with an
Okay.
idea,
Mm-hmm.
this is what you need to do. We need to make a prototype. We need to make
Mm-hmm.
a minimum viable prototype, and
Mm-hmm.
then take it for clinical clearance, and then get
Mm-hmm.
an ethical clearance, and then you take the product into the market. So
Okay.
we
Okay.
understand the journey now. So
Mm-hmm.
now for us to get a product and then to start from prototyping
Mm-hmm.
to take the product in the commercial stage, we understand the whole pipeline.
Okay.
So
Okay.
now we are just adding more and more devices in. So now
Mm-hmm.
so currently the Jeevan Lite, which is can be used for both pediatric
Mm-hmm.
and for adults. They're trying to
Okay.
like
Mm-hmm.
trying to enhance it, make an
Mm-hmm.
advanced version which can be used for neonates.
Okay. Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's a huge problem because preterm
Mm-hmm.
birth is a huge problem.
Yes.
So if you
Yes.
any condition, so there are kids who cannot even survive more than 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So because they
Yes.
are preterm.
Mm.
So to
Yeah.
avoid all this issue, we need a proper ventilation setup, vital
Mm-hmm.
monitors,
Mm-hmm.
and everything is currently old school type. We want to bring
Yes.
in data, make a
Mm-hmm.
database. So that's where a Jeevan Connect comes in. So Jeevan Connect is
Mm-hmm.
a platform where all the
Okay.
devices will be deployed inside an ICU setup.
Mm-hmm.
We'll collect these devices and
Mm-hmm.
data from these devices, and then
Okay.
we'll be building up an AI algorithm,
Mm-hmm.
which will be helpful in case of translating this whole idea to rural setup. So now, when a
Okay.
patient comes
Okay.
in, so
Mm-hmm.
we know what is the condition of the patient
Mm-hmm.
because of the huge data sets which you have collected. So based on that,
Mm-hmm.
we can get an idea. If
Mm-hmm.
a patient condition, lung condition is like grade 2,
Mm-hmm.
these are the different kind of parameters we can give the
Okay.
patient might survive.
The
So based on
recommendations,
his brain age,
directly it gives the AI gives the recommendation. Mm-hmm. Okay.
exactly. So our idea is like 10 or 20 years down the line, the ventilator
Mm-hmm.
should be able to set itself
Okay.
based on the patient's health. We
Autonomous,
don't
like
want an
autonomous
individual.
function. Uh-huh. Interesting.
Yeah, and the
Mm-hmm. Okay.
doctor's work will be very drastically reduced because
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
identify. So if you look at the number of pulmonologists in India, we don't have enough.
Yes. Yes.
In,
Yeah.
in terms of clinicians itself, we have around 1,400 patients, and there are
Mm-hmm.
one doctor for them. That's the ratio.
True.
And WHO
Yes. Mm-hmm.
recommended is around one every 1,000 patient you should have one doctor.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
to overcome this barrier, we would require this autonomous
Mm-hmm.
feature, which will be able to automatically work on itself, but
Mm-hmm.
not completely autonomous. They'll be able to suggest some parameters. So
Okay.
these
Okay.
suggestion is something assistive tool is what we are trying to enhance, because
Okay.
that would
Okay.
help the clinicians who are on field in
Mm-hmm.
rural or tier 2 or tier 3 setup. So
True. Yeah.
that's
Mm-hmm.
our goal. Collecting
Okay.
the data, building an intensive care data sets, and
Mm-hmm.
building AI algorithm onto it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where I think that's a key part. So the
Mm-hmm.
ventilators which are currently deployed are like Coca-Cola machine.
Okay.
What I mean, that data is our Coca-Cola. So that's
Mm-hmm.
each bottle is like, because
Okay.
so far none of the ventilators or
Mm-hmm.
devices which are there in the market, they have this feature to collect this data. So
Mm-hmm.
now
Mm-hmm.
we know where exactly. And one more important part which we have observed is these ventilators are expensive and these are
Mm-hmm.
basically imported from abroad. So
Yes.
you
Yeah.
don't
Mm-hmm.
find any spare parts. So
Mm-hmm.
if they are not in working condition, service and
Mm-hmm.
maintenance, they take around months. And by the time the service
True.
part comes in, ventilator is not in a good condition to be used. So to
Yes.
avoid that, also we are trying to import more indigenous ventilators and medical
Mm-hmm.
devices where
Mm-hmm.
we know, because we have an IoT feature and we
Mm-hmm.
know where the device is being deployed, we know
Mm-hmm.
exactly the location of the ventilator where it's
Mm-hmm.
operating. Now
Mm-hmm.
we can directly ask the service and maintenance team to go have a look. Within 48 hours, we can provide service and maintenance. That's the whole
Mm-hmm.
idea. So it's basically bringing in the whole connection between different stakeholders: doctors,
Yes.
hospital staff,
Mm-hmm.
patients, relatives, and the manufacturers all on the same line.
Oh, that's great.
That's
That's great. Actually, it's very great initiative, I would say, and really thank you for working on this. And surely we hope like it would save a lot of many lives in future and also in present. And as you rightly said, like getting an approval for an intensive care unit system or a device is difficult. And like how it went for you, the journey, like the trials, everything, how it was like. In Indian setup, like how where you did the trials and etc. Mm-hmm.
sure. So first, to explain, break it down, we don't actually jump onto trial. We are not allowed to do it on directly on humans. So before
Okay.
that, also we need to do bench testing,
Mm-hmm.
where our ventilator will be connected. So first, we have to look for any kind of electrical imbalance. So that is
Mm-hmm.
called EMC EMI testing. So
Mm-hmm.
where our device is it radiating any kind of electromagnetic radiations?
Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
those things have to be tested, and also
Mm-hmm.
they'll change the voltage fluctuation, and then they'll
Mm-hmm.
see whether the device is maintained in such a way that even in the high voltage fluctuation, the device
Mm-hmm.
should not blow off.
Yes.
That's very
Yes.
important
Mm-hmm.
because it is
Mm-hmm.
directly connected to an oxygen supply.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
all this, there are like 20, 30 tests which has been
Mm-hmm.
done onto our ventilator.
Okay.
It
Mm-hmm.
also includes pouring a huge amount of water onto the medical device.
Oh,
So there might be
okay.
chemicals also which might
Mm-hmm.
also happen. Even
Okay.
in that
Okay.
stage, there should not be short circuit. There should not be
Mm-hmm.
any space for the water to go inside the device,
Mm-hmm.
and the
Mm-hmm.
device should only shut down. That's it. That's something which
Okay.
is as one of the criteria. These are
Mm-hmm.
all bench testing, and also we check the efficiency of the device by
Mm-hmm.
connecting it to some simulator. So these are
Okay.
the lung
Okay.
simulators we have.
Mm-hmm.
So those
Mm-hmm.
things. So when I say this should be the FiO2, and
Mm-hmm.
this is the amount of oxygen it should go blend in,
Mm-hmm.
and this is the
Okay.
volume it should come out from. This is a set which have, for example, the total
Mm-hmm.
capacity is around 1000 ml.
Mm-hmm.
1000 ml of the volume I just set it up, and
Mm-hmm.
how much is it been coming out from the ventilator is also I need to look at. So
Okay.
once that
Okay.
has been done, I clearly know that okay, the ventilator is working fine, everything is working fine. Then we take
Mm-hmm.
it to our patients. So we
Okay.
have deployed
Okay.
around 30 units. These 30 units are in and around Pondicherry, so the three
Mm-hmm.
states, Pondicherry, the Telangana, and the Rajasthan area. So
Mm-hmm.
where we are collecting data from patients where they are being tested on.
Mm-hmm.
So these data have been compared between an existing ventilator and our ventilator, and
Okay.
that's how
Okay.
we do the clinical trial. So there's also a sample size of around 30 plus.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
to give it statistical significance, we have
Mm-hmm.
used the tested on this 30 individuals.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It would be very, informative for the, people who are aspiring to, venture into healthcare entrepreneurship. And really, thank you for your time with us today for the discussion. And we really appreciate your patience in answering our questions and sharing your experience. And as an endpoint, like, can you please give some 2 points of takeaways to aspiring entrepreneurs, like our youngsters who wants to venture into healthcare, start a healthcare startup, etc. From your experience, if you could just say two major points or takeaways for them.
Okay. I don't think I'm that old enough to give suggestions. It's a pleasure to be here on Next Gen Entrepreneur.
Mhm,
I'll try to give whatever learnings I got so far.
mhm,
So first thing is, if you find, so leave the entrepreneurship side. Never get to work something to get money. That's something very, very important.
mhm,
So that's something very, very important. You start something. If you find a problem, it's so. For example, I come from a very a small village where there's a shortage of water.
mhm,
So there are few people who are there. They came up with this idea. They approach the problem solving can be different. But
mhm,
if you think that you can contribute something to that particular problem that is very close to your heart, get down and start working.
mhm,
Don't think about anything else. Don't think about what is the outcome of it and whether I'll be able to solve it. It's a journey. So when you start,
mhm,
you might be learning something. It's a learning curve. So
mhm,
but you'll be able to reach to a stage, if you're passionate enough, you'll be able to reach to a stage where you have the solution in hand, and then you can get onto the field. So first thing is, never think about money. Just get into the field. Try to
mhm,
solve the problem. When you see that your problem has been solved by a solution that you made, there will be a smile on your face. That's more
mhm,
than enough, and then money will flow in from different other sources. That's something which I've seen so far. Second thing is, when you're building something, think big. That's something which I have noticed. So when we came up with this idea, we were like, okay, we'll make one device and then we'll just say this, and then we'll just present it to IIT, and that's it. That's what our whole goal was. But
mhm,
then we saw that, okay, there are multiple other problems. Others are which there are multiple other issues. An intensive care patient is trying to observe or be observed during our clinical immersions. So then we saw, okay, there are multiple different things we can build. And there is one thing which was in our head. We don't see any Indian medical device manufacturer at par with an international brand.
yes.
That is
Yeah.
something was like
Mhm,
a pricking point for us. It's like, okay, we don't have any competitor. Why don't we be the next big Asia's biggest or world's biggest medical device manufacturer? That is something. So you need to think big. So we need to think big. So I'll tell about this. My co-founder, Cyril Anthony. So iteration, our devices, we whatever we had as a first iteration was too good. So he's
mhm,
like, okay, we could have deployed these units into the market, but he is
mhm,
like, no, we want our device to be so when someone looks at our device, he should clearly say that, okay, this ventilator is a international brand ventilator. The design
okay.
should be unique, the
Mhm,
user interface is so good. So those things are like, so that's where the whole production line and also
mhm,
the product development, we have spent enough amount of time. That
mhm,
whole contribution, the whole appreciation goes to him and his team. So
okay.
that's where that vision should be there when we are trying
Mhm,
to start with big, so that we are not trying to satisfy ourselves with very small achievements, but
mhm,
trying to compete with others who are there into the market, so that we'll be able to reach to a height
mhm,
where we would have not imagined so far. So if you ask me 2 years back down the line, back, I would have never thought about, okay, I would reach to a stage where would have three products in hand,
mhm,
or I would have a 50 plus working devices already into the market. That's something
okay.
which I've never dreamed about. But I had the
Mhm,
vision, okay, I can take it further. So these are the
okay.
two comments I think I can give it to them.
Yeah, that's actually nice and well put. And thanks a lot for your time, Rajesh. And we'll surely meet in any other discussion in future. And really thank you for joining us today. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for the